Hey there everyone, welcome back to the Doug and Racecraft YouTube channel. On this episode, we get the interior put back together. Hey there everyone, welcome back to the Doug and Racecraft World Headquarters. We got a lot of good stuff in store for you today. Got some T5 stuff, got some 82 GT stuff. Also finally picked up that parts car. I'll show you guys that really quick. Here is the new parts car. My plans have changed like they always do. Originally, I picked up this car because I had a lot of good engine parts coming with it that I was going to use in the GT. I picked up this car from a kid's dad. Kid got a job out of town, met his sweetheart, whatever. Lost interest in the car after it was tore apart. Tree fell on it right here in the storm that we had over the summer in Iowa. But this car had a lot of good aftermarket stuff on it. Had a Cobra R hood, that's gone. Cobra wheels. Cobra badges, but it still had like the GT bumper on it. Has a nice Celine wing, that's going to be on tomorrow. Also has an 8.8, came with a T5 that was disassembled that's supposedly good, so now I have 3 T5s, and I picked up a box full of parts today. We'll show you guys how that goes. So I don't have all the parts down right now, but they're all up on the shelf, like my messy garage. Came with a Cobra, EFI intake, basically all new trick flow stuff still in the box. The only thing that was used were the cylinder heads. They're as cast 170cc cylinder heads that are right there. They have probably less than 1,000 miles on them. Don't know what the story is behind that. Has crane cams, 1.6 roller rockers, brand new in the box, 7/16 rocker studs, locks for those as well. Push rods, stage 1 trick flow cam. Also came with a brand new 347 rotating assembly. Has a scat forged crank that's right there. Eagle forged H-beam rods and DSS, I want to say, 30 thousandths overbore pistons with a 6cc dish. With this combination, that would probably end up giving it somewhere around 9.5, 10-to-1 compression, which would be pretty healthy, I'm sure. But like I said, the plans have changed. So tentatively, I'm probably going to end up putting a caddy in this. Right now, I think that's just the best way to go about it. For now, we're going to just put some gaskets on that 302 that came out of it and just put it back in with the T5 just so it's running for the summer. But after you start doing the math in your head for how much it's going to cost to have the block condition for that rotating assembly and whatever, by the time I get that 347 together, I'm going to have almost as much in that as I would in a coyote swap, and a coyote swap is what I wanted to end up with. We're just going to sell the stuff that we got with this car. So I paid $1,200 for the car, which is a steal for everything that I got. I'll probably get at least that much back out of the car from parting it out. If you need any SN95 parts, I know somebody who's got some. I also picked up from Randy today a 8.8. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, Sean, why don't you just use that 5-lug 8.8 coming out of that SN95? And I'll tell you why, audience member. Because this just makes for more good content. Now, I said I would show you guys how this ends up working out, how you can do the 5-lug swap and the disc brake swap with a Fox body housing, which this one is, obviously. 4-lug drum brakes. We're going to 5-lug disc brakes. Also, allegedly, this one has 373 gears. We'll see how true that is. If they're not, Randy, I'm going to break your kneecaps. Also, like I said today, we picked up a box full of T5 parts. Some good stuff. I gave Randy $50 for all these parts, and I got pretty much my money's worth out of it. These 2 input shafts are out of the transmissions that I already had, and these 2 were in the box. After doing a little bit of research, the one I got from my friend locally, which would be this one, is probably a 4-cylinder T5. The way you can tell by looking at it just off the bat, it's got this little bitty pilot shaft right here, whereas like these ones, I don't know exactly what they are. These are like 1/2 inch. These are like 400 thousandths or something like that. Also came with probably about 4 transmissions worth of 5th gears. There's the other 5th gear parts, some other miscellaneous gears and stuff. You might be saying to yourself, Sean, these don't look like they're bad condition. Oh, there we go. That's nice. Well, they're not good now. The gears themselves are fine, but when you get into when you start having bad engagements and the grinding going into gear, it's not the actual gears grinding, it's the these little teeth here, right here. I'll show you how these work when I have a transmission sitting here. Basically, your synchronizer or your blocker ring slows down the gear to get it engaged with the slider assembly, which are these. When your blocker rings start going out, you start having these teeth here contacting these teeth here. And as you can see, like those, they're supposed to have a very nice solid point on them, and these ones don't. See, like this one here, I don't know if you guys can see that or not. They're rounded off, and when they start rounding off, they don't want to go in gear anymore. Also got a good counter shaft. Not sure what the story is with this, why this one was deemed bad or not worthy. I'm pretty sure this is a world class counter shaft. This is a non-world class counter shaft. The non-world class has just a roller bearing on the front, whereas the world class has a tapered bearing, and I'll show you why gears break on these so often. Kind of a flawed factory design. Like I said, we'll get more into that when we get into it. Probably not going to be this episode. I have a whole bunch of film from tearing all those apart. I just have to finish it up, get all the parts I need to put them back together, and then we'll continue on with that. I'll end up keeping the transmission for myself. Initially, when we do this coyote swap, it's going to be an automatic just because that's the drivetrain that I already have. So the way this is going to end up working out, we're going to take the drivetrain that I have ready for the King Cobra. It's a 6R80, Gen 3 short block, Gen 1 cylinder heads, and it's going to be Gen 2 timing components. So I can use the 6R80 control pack from Ford Performance. Eventually, once I get this drivetrain dialed in and the King Cobra is ready for its drivetrain, we're going to take the drivetrain out of this one, put it back in the King Cobra, and then we're going to get a 5-speed or a 6-speed for the GT with another Coyote. Probably going to end up being a T5 again, and I know what you're thinking, oh, that T5's not going to last very long, but we're going to order a G-Force gear set for it. The G-Force gear sets can handle up to 600 horse, especially the synchronized versions. Obviously not good for super high RPM. So we might just end up getting a TKX, the new TKX that just came out from Tremec. So it's the next day. Here we are, getting ready to put the dash back in. First, we need to clean up the ducts and everything that came out of them, because as you can see, they're still pretty dirty. I have the structural pieces back in the dash. I took these out when I dyed it just so that they didn't get overspray on them. Still have to screw them all back in so that this doesn't rattle around and all that good stuff. Heater box and associated components need to go in first before the dash can go back in, because they obviously sit behind the dash and it'd be a lot more difficult to get them in once the dash is back in. So we're gonna do that first. Ducts and everything back in it, then put the dash in, then put the steering column in along with the wiring harness and all that good stuff. So full disclosure, I had Super Clean reach out to me on one of my videos. They sent me an email and asked me if I'd be interested in using some of their products. This is not a paid endorsement. They just sent me some of the stuff and asked that if I liked it, that I go ahead and show you guys about it and do a little review. So we'll just work some of this stuff into my normal content. So we're gonna use our degreaser here on these dirty, grody, mouse-infested ducts for the heater vents, and we'll see how well that goes. First, we're going to start on the defroster vent. This goes on top of the heater box, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly. And then the defrost ducts come out of here. Luckily, the defrost ducts weren't too bad. This one was pretty terrible, though. Oh, wait, no, this one sits inside the heater box like this. Then the defrost vent sits on top of that. So, let's spray her down a little bit. Okay, so as you can see, that actually worked pretty good. Got a lot of that caked on stuff on there. Obviously, I'll have to replace this film. That kind of sucks, but what can you do? All right, so now we're working on the driver's side fresh air vent. It goes from the cowl of the car down to the driver's footwell. Got the fresh air vent, looks like brand new again, besides the little bit of rust we got on that flapper door right there. So that's not good. Oops. But yeah, no, the Super Clean is actually working very nice. Very, very surprising. I've tried a lot of degreasers in the past and they have left me quite disappointed, I must say. But I honestly never tried Super Clean. I don't know why. But this stuff's actually working surprisingly well. Alright guys, we got most of everything cleaned up. Ready to go back in the car. The only thing that's holding me up now is this blower motor. Obviously the mice had their way with it. I would really rather not put that back in the car, so I think I'll be able to put the heater box back in the car up for now. The heater box goes into the car like this. This end sticks out towards the dash, and you should be able to put the new blower motor in because you get to the screws through here and then put the heater core on because I don't have that yet either. I'm also missing the piece that goes right here. Not entirely sure where that goes. I remember it had the fresh air valve in it because it goes up to the cowl right here. So I'm gonna have to try and find that. So I guess I can at least get this part back in the car. This is probably the only part that would have to go in before the dash. The rest of the ducts and everything can be put in after the fact. I don't know how much I'm gonna be able to show you guys of this just because I already have most of the interior back in the car and I don't really have anywhere to set the camera. And it's kind of late on a Sunday, so I don't have anybody come film for me. So this one might just be one that I cut to when it's done. I'll let you go. Okay, everyone. As you can see, we finally got the dash back in. The interior's mostly back together. Huge step in the right direction. I couldn't be more excited about this. The dye actually came out pretty close. So this is still the original red here. And this is the red that I dyed this dash. Obviously the factory stuff's a little darker. So I'll end up having to dye the glove box door, this applique here, and the fuse box cover. I also ended up ordering new carpet. I figured that the carpet was the culprit of the reason it still smells so bad. I was hoping that taking the old batting off the back of this carpet would help the scent come around a little bit, but it really hasn't. The seats smell fine, which is very odd. You put your schnoz, your sniffer right up to the seat and you can't smell anything. So I know that the seats, the dash, the wiring harness, all that is not the root of all this terrible odor. So it's got to be the carpet. I'm not going to put my nose up to it because it smells terrible. New carpet from LMR with the batting on the back was only, I think it was $199 plus shipping. So call it $210 with tax, shipping, and all the other bits and pieces. You know, I'm still pretty happy with how great a shape these seats were in. It looks like Chris had them covered for most of their lives, so thank you, Chris. I really do appreciate that. Obviously, it's a little bit dirtier on this side. Some of the piping here could probably use a good scrubbing, or, I mean, eventually they'll get replaced, so it's not that big a deal. Still put the sail panels back in. That's not that big a deal. Kick panels as well. There's the harnesses that run here up to the dash that still need to get spliced in and replaced. Some of these wires just got broken out from getting wet over the years from the remnants of the mice, if you will. I also took from that parts car a Steeda quadrant and firewall adjuster. Like I said, that car is the car that just keeps on giving. It had a whole bunch of nice aftermarket stuff on it. It looked like it was brand new still. The only thing I will say is that with at least this era Fox body, the pedal assembly does have to come out to put it in. I cannot get the other pieces off the clutch extension onto the other side to effectively put the new one on. Luckily, I realized this before I had the dash back in. The pedal assembly comes down by removing the 4 bolts that the booster hold in effectively, and then there is 1 bolt that comes up through into the cowl support. I'm sure it's a lot more difficult with it in the car. Obviously, if you have it in the car still, nothing torn apart. The steering column has to come down for sure. Might have to come out. I don't know for sure. I can't say. I don't know that I would have gone through all that trouble to replace it if I didn't already have one, but I had one, so I figured I might as well put it in. I'm going to be putting a little bit stiffer clutch in it, and I mean, it's still going to be pretty streetable though. You'll also notice I have an 83 and up steering wheel in the car. I ended up swapping columns because the 83 and up steering wheel it's a round shape and it has 2 flat spots in it for the steering wheel to go on, and then it's retained by a bolt, whereas 82 and older have a spline steering shaft. So obviously I just wanted the wheel. I didn't want to have to replace the steering column because everything else is the same besides like the stalks here. Nice thing about this one though, It is a tilt wheel. Tilt does work. Obviously the gauge cluster is not back in it. Was able to pick up 140 mile an hour speedometer. I'm just waiting to get the gauge faces in from Tom Clark. Sinus Built is his name on Instagram, SINISBUILT. Really cool guy, has a lot of cool stuff. I know him from his pace car. He has a 79 pace car that is an amazing project. So obviously we're moving along, making really good progress. This is the major mental block that I had to get past in order to keep going with the project. This is the main thing that was holding me up. Before the weekend, it's currently Wednesday, I ordered a new steering rack from Rock Auto with new tie rod ends. We'll have to get the rack back in the car so I can move it around a little bit easier, if you will. This next week I got a project coming in. We're going to take probably a week or two off from the 82 GT. I have a 97 Cobra coming in that I'm doing some work for a friend. It's a Coyote Swap 97 Cobra. Very, very clean car. You guys will see. All we're going to end up doing with it more than likely is a little bit of plumbing and it's a turbo kit fabrication. The combination this car has is a Gen 2 Coyote engine, crate motor from somebody, I don't remember who he said offhand, somebody up in Detroit. Gen 2 6R80, and it's an IRS car. The turbo size is a 6266 if I remember correctly. Should be a pretty stout car. It'll run on E85. I might help him out with the fuel system a little bit as well. I'm not really sure yet. Tentatively, all we're going to be doing is doing the turbo kit fabrication. The turbos are going to mount up front underneath where the fog light holes are on an SN95 Cobra. That's where we're going to try and put the turbos if the logistics work out everything. The turbo kit that he has right now came from a new edge with the Coyote Swap 6R80 as well. And so that should work pretty closely. Obviously, it'll differ a little bit with K-members use and everything like that. It'll get us at least in the ballpark. Some of the fitment and fabricating wasn't the greatest to begin with. So that's why he's going to have me do this. Derek's a very smart guy. He does a lot of good, clean builds. He just doesn't have the time right now. So I'm going to help him out. And we're going to get him rolling a little bit faster so that he can enjoy the car. If we have a little bit of time in between working on that car, waiting for parts, what have you, we will end up bringing the GT back in for a little bit. Next thing on the agenda is the 8.8. As you see, I got 4 lug Fox 8.8 here, SM95 rear end from that parts car here. I'll show you guys the differences between the two, how easy it is to convert this one to 5 lug and disc brakes. Whether you want to use SM95 with stuff or if you want to keep the factory Fox body width, because a lot of people, that's a deal breaker. This rear end is roughly 1.5 inches wider than this one is. Even though the housings are the same, the axles are longer past where the bearing flange is. So that's something you'll get to see coming up. After that, we're gonna get the motor put back together, cleaned up, painted, and back in the car. I'll end up making an exhaust for it. I got some 1 5/8" headers on the shelf there. We'll make our own mid-pipe. I have stainless 3-inch exhaust tips coming. I also took the hangers from that parts car, so that'll help me get going in that direction a little bit faster. We got a lot of good stuff coming out for this project in the near future. Make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss out on that content. In the next couple videos, we'll be working on that 97 Cobra. After that, we're going to work on the 8.8 for the 82 GT, as well as buttoning the motor back up. And then hopefully after that, we're going to get her fired up. I don't foresee any more roadblocks, but for those of you that are into restoring cars, you know that anything can happen. I don't know about you guys, but this car has me beat dead. But that's better than being a dead beat. That's going to do it for this episode, you guys. Y'all take care now.